Hello and welcome to Brain Soup, a channel where I talk about whatever may be simmering away in my neurodivergent little mind. If you're new here, hi, I'm Paula. I was diagnosed with ADHD at 39 years old, and I talk about neurodiversity from the lens of a late diagnosed adult. If that sounds interesting to you, stick around. And if you're feeling extra kind, go ahead and do any or all of those content engagement things that make the YouTube algorithm happy. Coming down from hyperfocus is a bit like being hungover. I'm disoriented, probably dehydrated and hungry, and my thought process feels like I'm kind of wading through sludge. If I've been really pushing myself on something like I did a little while ago, I'll know that this is coming. But sometimes a bad brain day could just come out of nowhere. We just gotta deal with it. So, what do I do to recover from an ADHD fugue state? Well, if you've been following along, you'll notice I haven't posted for a few weeks, and that might just be a hint that I do not have all the answers. I haven't really pushed myself to that extent for a really long time. And I definitely underestimated how significantly I would be hit by the aftermath. The last time I did anything close to this was in university. Fun fact, that was 20 years ago, and my body and brain has aged a little in the meantime. Go figure. I feel like back in the day, I was back to normal after one good sleep. That could have been a full night, that could have been a nap. Didn't matter. But that was my early 20s before corporate job, mortgage, family, and I just learned that I really should not have guessed what my recovery would be like based on a context that no longer exists. These days, it takes far more than one good sleep to get me back to normal. In fact, different forms of rest are needed to recharge the body and brain batteries. We gotta climb Maslow's hierarchy of needs a little bit here. The higher up the pyramid, the more abstract the needs, and so the more what works for me won't necessarily work for other people. That said, here are some of the strategies that I used over the past few weeks for whatever they're worth. Let's start with physiological needs. These are the easiest to understand and the simplest to address. Food, water, sleep. Simplest, not necessarily easiest. Like many neurodivergent people, my relationship with food can be really impacted by a bad brain day. I might just not feel hungry, or just the amount of work that it would take to think of what to have and make it and eat it could just seem like an impossible challenge. Or many foods that I might normally eat might just not be appealing no matter how hungry I am. Or some fun combination of any of those. This topic is probably worth its own video, and I'll get into it a bit more another time. But for now, I'll say that I am fortunate enough to have a spouse that takes care of most of the cooking, and so I don't have to deal with the burden of responsibility to make sure I'm eating properly. I just need to eat what's there. I have reminders for drinking water, but I'm not always the best at paying attention to them, but I do my best. And if I'm feeling particularly rough, I'll have something with electrolytes, and that usually helps to get my hydration back on track. For sleep, well, I have a 6-year-old who's seemingly solar powered, and we're far enough north that we're getting more than 16 and a half hours of daylight these days. Plus, I have a brain that naturally likes to be awake in the later evenings. Plus, I have days I have to be up at 5 in the morning to commute to the office. So, sleep is an ongoing challenge. I find that using a weighted blanket really helps sometimes. Another thing that works really well for me, but only when my daughter's out of the house and not gonna be calling out for me in the night, is having headphones with some kind of soothing music. I find bilateral stimulation tracks are particularly helpful here. I'll leave a link to an example down in the show notes below. It's kind of like my brain is just being gently rocked to sleep by the back and forth of the audio. Safety needs. Now, I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to actively work to meet my safety needs from day to day. So for me, this doesn't play an active role in any recovery strategies that I have. However, while I'm recovering, if there's any activities on my to-do list that are more dangerous if I'm fatigued or otherwise unable to keep my mind on task, I'll put those off until I'm in a better state of mind or until I can get help to complete them safely. Belonging and love. As an introvert, striking the right balance can be tricky. Needing to feel a sense of belonging and love, but also needing alone time to recharge the social battery. The important thing here is to have quality, low-key interaction with important people in my life. That way, there's that sense of connectedness and the nice love hormone release without feeling like I need to escape to live as a bog witch in the woods. A nice nature walk with my daughter is a great example of recharging this need. Not gonna lie, esteem can be a tough one on bad brain days when it feels like I'm more gremlins in a trench coat than human. When coming off a forced hyperfocus session, it helps to look at what I accomplished and remember, oh yeah, I did that. I did the thing. Cognitive needs on bad brain days are more along the lines of avoiding heavy loads than needing a nice challenge. Having simplified routine to follow that reduces the number of decisions that I have to make, it helps me rest a little bit more than a more typical routine. It's important to have something that'll keep me at least a little bit occupied though, because that keeps the brain squirrels fed and happy. If they start getting bored or antsy, then they're chewing on the bars, wanting to get out and scrambling all over the place, or flopping on the ground like sadness in Inside Out. Aesthetic needs. Having something soothing to watch or listen to goes a long way in helping me recharge. When I'm needing to recharge, I tend to go for more familiar favorites that I can enjoy without needing to spend any focus to follow along. And that's about as far up Maslow's pyramid as it goes when it comes to recovery, at least for me. If you have any tips or routines that you use when you're not at your best, I'd love to read about them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and talk again soon. And actually soon, now that I'm feeling a bit more back to myself. Bye!